Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Last Call. One that I hope will be just as insightful and informative as the ones before it. Today, we have with us Abid Umar. He's a friend, he's a citizen science leader, and he's the founder of the Pakistan Air Quality Initiative. His work in open air quality monitoring has transformed how communities and governments understand pollution in Pakistan. From low cost sensors to data driven advocacy, Abid is really on the front lines of climate and public health awareness. He's helping people breathe, and he's helping policymakers understand and act. And now I believe he's actively really reaching out and enhancing his footprint beyond the region as well. So we're very proud of all the work that he's doing. Abid, very excited to have you here with us today.
Kyle, for having me on the last call because somehow the smog levels in Punjab does make it seem like it is a last call, a wake-up call about
Yeah.
doing something.
No, yeah, of course. I think that's why the Dawn Media Group gave it such a name, the show, because I think everything we've spoken about around climate change in the last couple of weeks leading up to the Breathe Pakistan conference has been literally the last call, not just on smog, but on a number of other fronts as well. So I'm going to try to initially in this episode educate the audience. Let's first try to kind of understand smog, then maybe go into PAQI and the other and all the other initiatives you're doing and the community part that you've talked about so much. So question number one is a solid myth buster. Can you kind of elaborate on what to your mind are the biggest misconceptions people have about smog and air pollution in this country, given that I feel like smog is a part and parcel of our life if we are to continue living in Pakistan, and I hope more people don't leave. So, what are the top misconceptions you've had to deal with over the last couple of years?
So there are three misconceptions. The first one is that this is fog and not smog, right? And
Yeah.
visually, you can't tell that. You need instruments to tell you whether you're looking at water vapor or you're looking at trace elements of lead and arsenic and magnesium and other poisons in the air, right? And now it's an established fact that it is air pollution, while fog is, of course, also there. But the levels of fog don't concern us. It's rather the levels of air pollution. The second misconception is that this air pollution is coming from India, from across the border. Yes,
Yeah.
the air doesn't see any borders. It doesn't know where a political or a national or even a provincial or a district or a tehsil level boundary is ending. The pollution will be transported in all directions.
Yeah.
But primarily the pollution is localized. Lahore's pollution is 90% local, and maybe 10% or less is coming from across the border. So the solutions have to be local. And the third myth is about what the solutions are. And our solutions are based on what we see. That, I see brick kilns spewing out black smoke, and I see fields being set on fire for crop residue clearing. And we think those are the problems that need to be addressed. Actually, the problems are much more complicated than that.
Abid, I think you're the air quality guy around town, but with what I do as well, I get a lot of these questions, and I have similar answers to what you just said. I remember when the Pakistan-India war happened, right? There were so many people who were saying they're throwing smog our way post the war, and I was like, bro, that's really not all of the problem. You have to understand, and I'm so glad that you started off with it, and I want to kind of dip deeper into the misconceptions, and I want to kind of make you say out loud what you data backed, fundamentally, objectively believe are the top contributing factors, especially in the background of the fact that last year we did see a reasonable drop in air pollution, but we were still, leading the charts by a mile. So what do you think are the top contributing factors currently?
It doesn't matter where you are. You can be in Lahore, you can be in Karachi, you can be in London, you can be in Paris. The contributors are always in broad strokes the same, right? Like it is transportation, it is industry, it is urban waste, and it is agriculture. And more or less, these are like contributing 1/4 of the problem in each city. Transportation might be a little bit higher in some city. If it's very urban, it would be not 25, maybe it's 33. It could be a little less if you're not that, if you're not a mega city. If you're more rural area, agricultural would be bigger. Unfortunately, the data is still not good enough to have a very, very clear statement. For example, the Urban Unit came out with a report a few years ago where they said transportation contributes 88% of air pollution
Yeah.
in Lahore. We came out with a report last year where we said, no, that figure is actually closer to 33%. So, but that's also the beauty of the scientific process, that the information keeps getting better and better as time goes by. Because what I mean by better, that was there a certain sector that we ignored? For transportation sector, initially, like even us as PAQI, we only took lump sum. Okay, these are the number of cars. But if I want to be more nuanced, I would be like, okay, so many 1300cc vehicles and so many 800cc vehicles, and so many 6000cc diesel vehicles and so forth, right? So you get a much nuanced picture, and that same picture will apply to rice residue burning, to fertilizer use, to so it's like a never-ending journey. But transportation is still going to be like the number one contributor.
Okay, and we're discussing one of Pakistan's most persistent problems, maybe bigger than the IMF concerns we have, smog. Abid, I think, with the ad break, we had to kind of cut off into the sectoral emission conversation we were having. So, I'd like to give you the floor to, kind of dig deeper into that before I kind of move on to another topic.
It is important to deeper because finally we need to speak about solutions. But today our solutions are coming from drawing room discussions, right? Like we sit in a room and we decide, okay, this is what I think is the source, and therefore let's go after that. But you need research, you need data, you need monitoring, and you need the science. So in fact, even I was surprised when we did our nationwide emissions inventory project, is that, for example, while transportation, I said, is big everywhere, but if you go to, if you apply the same methodology to Islamabad, where you expect the pollution levels to be very low, we find that the transportation sector is an even bigger contributor, because actually this area is a transportation hub for all of KPK. Similarly, for Karachi, we found out that the emissions related to the seaport are the biggest contributor and not the industry, because Pakistan's entire economy is based on imports coming from Karachi port and Port Qasim. And so it's not only the ships themselves, but also the trucking. So data is what is like presenting a picture on its own. So, in the past, I would think, okay, in Karachi, we need to go after industries, but actually we need to go after port-related activities as the contributor. And that's how like solutions should be devised.
No, I think that's very interesting. I think the one thing that I've learned in my personal climate journey is that I've had very strong notions of things, and I've learned that I am very, very frequently wrong. And it's great that, people like yourself, your team, and, other such initiatives are really focusing on the data part so that, we come out of these drawing room discussions, which is possibly a very strong culture in the Pakistani economy as well at large. So I want to kind of, go on to the next step and really talk about, what are the kind of fixes that you think should be implemented. But before that, I'll ask you what your opinion is on the kind of fixes that have been implemented. We've seen the government of Punjab take a very active role in the last year. I have my skepticism in terms of how effective some of those things have been, from the anti-smog guns to cloud seeding to a number of other such initiatives. The EPA force coming across like the Punjab police in some ways to me. So and barring being trying to be very objective with this, barring my prior comments, I would just want to ask you to evaluate the effectiveness of what has happened so far, and what do you think is the feasibility for the days to come?
Number one, we have to recognize that the Punjab government is doing a phenomenally good job. That they are doing something, that they have, most importantly, the political will to act, and that you can see
Yeah.
on the ground that things are happening. Now, whether everything is the right thing, look, Pakistan and Punjab in particular has just embarked on this project to seriously clean the air, right? These are no longer lip service. अच्छा हम कर रहे हैं कुछ काम, but which is ineffective, but there is a real will to make a difference. And there are certain things which are going to be ineffective. I think each country, each province, each city has to find its own path. So
Yeah.
there are some things that they started doing, and I can give an example where they announced the smog check system, where every vehicle will
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
go to a vehicle inspection station and get checked, which is not practical for a mega city like Lahore to do, because by the time you go through the entire fleet, it'll be too late already. Like it's like a whack-a-mole target, that it's not practical. And they rolled back that, right? Because I don't think they're enforcing or implementing that projects. You try something, you start something, you learn something, and then you change course. Similarly, it was only, I mean, thankfully, maybe only announced in the newspapers last year in January that there will be a smog tower, but this
Yeah.
smog
Yeah.
tower this never
Yeah.
materialized, which is a great thing, right? Like why waste resources when you know that you have to clean pollution at source and
Yeah.
not like try to remove it when it's already there. So I think
Yeah.
we have to recognize the positives. Regarding the effectiveness, look, the data will tell us the effectiveness. I don't think we can judge last year because it's too early. And I also think we can't judge from the year before, because last year was a normal air pollution year. The year before was an exceptionally high pollution year, right? So compared to 2024, 25 looks better, but it doesn't look better compared to 23 or 22 or 21. So the pollution levels are still very much there. If anything, they're increasing as economic activity continues to increase, and Lahore and Punjab continues to grow. But I think the
Yeah.
it has to be also recognized that the policies literally just got implemented middle of last year, right? So I don't think that everything has been done. So we should not like judge yet. Maybe next by the next smog season that's going to come this year, we should be a bit more judgmental about what has actually happened, because we're going to have a lot more happening on the ground than had happened last year.
I do take your point fully that, I think after a very, very long time, we've had a government in place that has really said with its whole heart that we want to fix this problem. And of course, I think that's also part of evolution where we try stuff, some works, some doesn't, but at least the will is there. I think that, in terms of a very basic question that I've been asked multiple times and I've not had the answer to, and I'm not sure if you'll have the answer to this or not, is of course there was a difference in the air quality that we saw last season than what was previously reported, and which was much higher. And the pressing question that everyone keeps talking about is, was that because of interventions that were effective, or is that just the hand of God? Do you have some take on that?
That was purely nature. It's meteorology. The reference here you're comparing it to was when an unusual pollution episode happened in November 24, which makes all the numbers go higher for that particular year. So compared to 2024, 25 was better, but not compared to 23 or 22, right? So in actually, there has been no change in the pollution levels when you look at the long-term data. And similarly, just a few weeks ago, IQAir released a global air quality report where they put Pakistan as number one as the most polluted country in the world.
And now I'm going to, ask him a bit of a personal story. I want him to explain to us all how the Pakistan Air Quality Initiative was found, where the idea came from, and what the last 10 years has been like, and what he wants the next decade to look like.
So, this started off from just being curious. I wanted to know what was in the air in Lahore specifically, because, that's where our family house is. My grandmother lives there. I wasn't even living in Pakistan. I was actually in Beijing. And over there, I'd hear people say this is fog and not smog. And, what a beautiful winter day. And I was like, but that's what people are saying in Lahore as well. And I'm like, but in Beijing, I knew because you had open data available from the US consulate over there, which showed extremely hazardous levels of pollution. And I was like, okay, let me go on Google and find out for myself. And because there was no information available, and I'm like, okay, this is a public service. The government needs to provide air quality data as it is doing for
Yeah.
so many other sectors, as it is doing for weather and meteorology. You're getting temperature forecasts and
Yeah.
rain forecasts. So why don't they do this about air? And because this wasn't being done, I thought, why can't a citizen just step in and fulfill the service role, this role? Because it's something that has to be done. But more importantly than just going out and putting and installing air quality monitors, I thought that we need to develop a community around this. People who would not just host the monitors, but like look at the data, talk about the data, spread awareness, understand the problem. And so I think that is the most important thing that we did, that we developed a nationwide community around air quality monitoring and data.
Yeah.
And that was at a time when there was no data or awareness, and we didn't even know that air pollution is a problem.
I think, of course, it's data, but then there's this whole concept of understanding the data, unpacking it, and knowing what to do about it as well, right? So I believe PAQI developed this platform called Havana. Can you tell us what it does, what makes it unique, and why do you feel that that's the future?
So you asked my story. So Havanama is actually the story of air. Yeah, Hava ki kahani. And it is a platform on which you can not just see the air quality from our monitoring network or from government's monitors. You can see it from any air quality monitor in the country, from any manufacturer, even locally developed ones. But you can also go beyond that and see air quality. There is no air monitoring available. So if you want to see right now what the air pollution is looking like in the middle of Balochistan, or in
Yeah.
Thatta somewhere, you can see real-time live pollution levels, as well as you can see forecasting when you look 1, 2, 3 days ahead. And this is also all driven by agentic AI, where you can like chat and ask it questions. Should I go out to school today because, sorry, tomorrow because the air quality is going to be low? Or if you're a policymaker, you can decide that, do I want to shut down the schools in the entire district of Lahore? Or is my forecasting platform saying that I only need to look at like a certain part of the district? And similarly across Punjab, you can apply these concepts. So
Yeah.
I would say, like, I mean, to toot my own horn, that it's an extraordinary tool. I don't think anything exists like this by any provider anywhere in the world. It's something
Yeah.
made in Pakistan for Pakistan, and it's something unique. It's something new, and we're of course like opening it up to the public slowly. Right now, it's we're still finalizing and checking certain things, but anyone can access it. Just send us a message, and we'll send you the link.
I mean, I've seen snippets of it. I believe we're going to be also running some snippets of it on air as we speak. And I'm super excited for what you're doing. But, a lot of the younger lot ask these questions often, that you're this individual who saw a personal problem, which was the fact that, you saw smog, didn't know what it was around you, and you wanted to fix it. And that's where PAQI came in. And now with Havanama, you really completely transforming the world of data and accessibility of it as well. I love the fact that you're opening the platform only, up to the public as well. So I want to understand from this, non-climate technical lens, where does the IT tech AI guy come in, and how does that kind of join together?
It's a problem to be solved, right? Like, the problem isn't that we need more data, and the problem isn't that air pollution is bad and it's hazardous. And the problem isn't that, these are the solutions and they're so expensive. Look, this is about it's a human rights issue, it's a health issue. In fact, it should be called a health emergency. So you need to do everything needful until you start seeing blue skies. So whether it is equipment or data or platforms or policy making or hospitals being prepared for all of this, like a lot needs to happen. And I think the government also needed this like push in that direction, which is what our data helped do, like back in 2016 and 2017, right? Like 10
Yeah.
years ago when the data first started. So I think the lesson here is that don't look at external actors to like come and solve your problems, right? Like if you think it's a problem, if you think it's a personal problem, see what you can do, and you can navigate and figure out a way. And that is what we're doing. If we needed to build a software platform to make it happen, we're doing that. If we need to build the economic case for solving air pollution, we're doing that. But of course, these are all tools to support the government, because finally it is only in their jurisdiction to take action.
Okay. Thank you, Abid. So excited, for our last segment where we're going to talk about technological innovation, but also how that jumbles up with community initiatives. We've gone from, the myths of smog to how his story evolved in this air quality journey. And lastly, to his brilliant platform that I've had the privilege of seeing. And I hope, you guys get to experience someday very soon. But I think what he's developed most well is that he's always in public speeches talked about community-led initiatives. Um, Abid, can you kind of talk to us about, in the case of Havana, how do you see your ethos of community initiatives developing hand in hand, and how will you ensure that whatever comes from it is of a certain data quality and reliability as well?
So, why are we doing all of this? We're not doing this. I mean, in my case, at least, we're not doing this for profit. We're doing this to make a difference. And who
Yeah.
are you trying to make a difference for? That is, yes, we're trying to improve the environment and air pollution, but that is for people. And until you put that at the center of all your discussions and plans and thoughts, you're not going to be able to make a difference. Technology alone is not the answer. Everywhere that we have installed an air quality monitor, whether it's at somebody's home or somebody's office or a school, there's a relationship between that entity where, for example, at schools we go and we've delivered hundreds of workshops where we involve students to understand air pollution, to understand what the monitor is doing, to understand its health impacts. And, so the monitor or the data is just a starting point. Similarly, we're running like mobile monitoring campaigns which is also citizen science, where we equip people who ride motorcycles to go to work or to university in Lahore. And we're also doing this in Gilgit-Baltistan. So we can
Yeah.
understand the pollution that you as an individual are exposed to during your commute, so that we can, get a better picture. But what I mean by this is it's those individual relationships which are more key. And those are the relationships which are driving the change, which are creating the impetus for change. Because these people then go talk to their family and their friends and their colleagues, and the word spreads like that. And for them, it also becomes a personalized thing. And I really think like we wouldn't be having this discussion today had it not been from the very beginning a community led initiative. Today we say we're a science organization doing research and data and advocacy, but for the last 10 years I've always been saying we're a community organization, and that core has continued to stay with us.
No, I think that's very heartening to hear, and I love this about how you've been at it for so long. Do you feel that the community response has also evolved over the years?
Um, Actually, unfortunately, it has, because there was a lot of interest around air pollution, and I think that has also driven a lot of change and the reason why policy is happening now, Punjab government. But because for such a long time, I mean, from 2016 till 2025, not much really happened. It wasn't until last year that the government finally started to do something. So a lot of people have drifted away from the cause. I would love to have more people speak out about air pollution. I mean, I know more people used to speak out then than they do now in terms of public, in terms of driving interest. And it feels like that the media narrative today is that air pollution is under control, which is what the narrative is, but that's not what the data is showing. So I think we really need more community to be involved and to understand and to demand more action, right? Like, I mean, I did say that the government is doing an excellent job, but at the same time, it is up to every citizen to check and verify and validate that it's doing an excellent job, right? Like, what is the air pollution like in my union council level, or in my neighborhood, or in my school, right? Like, should I be demanding as a community person, like, a community of a school, that, okay, we need to have public transportation, or I mean, even a private school can get together and start providing this service. So I think those community champions need to reappear.
Fair. And I think just the last two questions before we close off. What do you think is the role of the media, or organizations such as the Dawn Media Group, and this Breathe Pakistan campaign, and really raising awareness for these issues, and really bringing the community together, the thought leaders, the decision makers, the civil society at large, to come together and work for a better Pakistan?
So Dawn is exceptional in that regard, where the quality of journalism, and like to go beyond just media and journalism, where they're organizing, I believe, the third Breathe conference that is coming up, where they're gathering nationwide and internationally a group of thought leaders and policymakers and researchers and academics, and I believe also from other fields, like from the agriculture field and the health sector, because you really do need to get everyone together in a room and start talking to each other, because that's the only way that you're going to get solutions. It is not enough for 1, 2, or 3 organizations to be working on air quality. I think every university in Pakistan needs to have air quality, a department dedicated to air quality, a team. It should be part of the curriculum at schools. It should be taught in hospitals as well, and in rural areas, and so forth, right? So media plays a big role. And similarly, like journalism, right? Like, if you are looking at a number, please do also fact check it and validate it, right? Like, if I tell you that the AQI is, XYZ, like, did you validate it against a second source and a third source? Let's not just take things at face value.
Very fair points, Abid. It's been a truly fascinating and enlightening discussion. I've learned a lot. I hope the viewers have too. I've always loved hearing you speak at these conferences, especially the last Breathe conference in Lahore. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, Abid, thank you. And here's to close off, hoping for a better tomorrow. And looking forward to the Breathe Pakistan conference on the 6th and 7th of May.